Everyone, and thank you for watching. And we begin with a long-range missile test. And no, this time we are not talking about North Korea. India's defense ministry now says that it has successfully tested an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Now, the missile puts India in an exclusive club of countries with access to ICBMs like the US, China and Russia. And what's more, it puts nuclear-armed rivals like Pakistan and China on notice. For more, let's bring in our senior diplomatic correspondent, Nina Larson, joining us from the UN. Nina, nice to have you with us. India is an established nuclear power, but what would you say the significance of the timing of this test is?
Well, I think it's no coincidence, Michelle, that this came at the same time that was a major visit from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's on a 6-day tour here, and he wrapped it up by sealing the deal on this massive missile deal. He was actually selling anti-tank missiles. It's not an ICBM, but if we've got this in tandem with this very successful missile test, and as you said, it puts India in that very, very exclusive club of powers that can have this kind of sophisticated delivery system. That's very key. So what we're really seeing here is India on the world stage showing that they have a very powerful ally. They're aligned with Israel. They have a powerful arms supplier, and they're also very capable in their own arsenal at the moment.
Well, Nina, this long-range ICBM now puts the northern parts of China within reach. What's been China's reaction?
Well, we haven't had an official reaction yet, but as you can expect, all this is designed to counterbalance China and its traditional ally, India's great rival, Pakistan, right on the border. That's what this is all about. India showing that it has this delivery system. Pakistan isn't quite there yet. They're being assisted in technology by China. So again, this is just a counterbalance and a deterrence to those two nations. And this all comes in an atmosphere where here at the United Nations, they were deliberating non-proliferation all over the globe. The Secretary General saying earlier today that the nuclear threat, he was referring to North Korea because that is the most immediate issue on the table at the moment. But he said the nuclear threat globally is the highest it's ever been since the Cold War, Michelle.
All right, Nina, thank you so much. Nina Larson, live at the UN for us. Let's welcome back to the program Jonathan Wachtel, former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the United Nations. Jonathan, nice to have you back, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good to see you, Michelle.
Always interesting developments when you join us. So what do you make of India test firing this missile?
India's always been in an interesting neighborhood. This isn't the first time we've seen nuclear prowess and tests and that type of thing, especially with the Pakistanis over the decades. This has always been there. What is significant here is China now. So it's a new playing field. It's a new assertion of power. It's a new, hello, China, we're here. Right. We're not pleased about what's going on with Pakistan and you. We're a power. Take us seriously.
Well, China and India contest some areas in the Himalayas, but they do have a lot of strong economic ties. What is the nature of the relationship between the two countries?
They do. You're absolutely correct. There's a lot of trade that goes on between the two countries. They generally have peaceful relations in terms of border things. It's not the relationship with Pakistan, obviously, right, and that animus and terrorism and those other issues that are really front and center in this nuclear arm race between the two nations. But India is an emerging power, right, just like China. You know, they also have their own domestic pride as a nation. They have a very strong leader now, very bent on improving the economy, improving India's place in the world, and watching China, its GDP surpass India, you know, where they're nations of over 1 billion people, and China has had this almost miraculous economic turn of events that has catapulted them into a completely different realm. And India, you know, feels a sense of maybe envy and a need to step it up and actually show some prowess.
Well, what's interesting is that the U.S. is trying to position India as that counterweight to China. When U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was visiting India in October of last year, he made that clear. He said that he wants the U.S. to deepen cooperation with India in the face of the growing Chinese influence. What do you think of that strategy?
There is a definite shift. Professionally, I've followed what's happened with India in terms of its relations with Russia, in terms of its relation with the Arab world, China, Pakistan, obviously. The administration definitely sees that India is a strong nation. India is a democratic nation. It's of course got its problems. A nation that large trying to have a democratic process in elections and that type of thing. But by and large, it's an actually flourishing, living, liberal democratic society that manages to make its way through and dependable. So a lot of the ideologies we share in terms of counterterrorism, in terms of democratic principles, it's things that don't necessarily live and flourish so well in a place like China.
And we've certainly seen even better ties between India and Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu wrapping up his visit to India as these missile tests took place. Perhaps no coincidence of the timing there. A lot of deals were signed during this visit. Modi and Netanyahu oversaw the signing of memos of understanding regarding oil, natural gas, tourism, cybersecurity. They're also in talks to start drafting a free trade agreement, according to some diplomats. India, of course, under Modi, it would be the first time that India signs a trade agreement with someone that's out of Asia. And Modi came to visit Israel. The bromance, if you will, between Modi and Netanyahu was well publicized. Why this change?
Couple of things. Historically, India has been pretty much in the G77 over at the United Nations, the sort of sphere of influence of the third world type of mentality, opposed to the United States in some areas, actually embracing principles under the Soviet Union and close relations with the Arab world, for instance. But there is a shift. There's a fundamental shift. One of the things is India is more proud of where it is in the world. It's a stronger nation. It's got a stronger economy.
But how does that issue of pride relate to its better ties with Israel?
Because Israel technologically is in a very interesting place. Militarily, it's got some of the finest arms on the market available by necessity of survival where it is and perfecting its technology in its digital world and technology and other things. Israel is cutting edge, fantastic advancements. India is very interested in that place.
Right.
So you hit a level, I think, as a nation in which you think, yes, we'll have our historic ties. Yes, we'll vote against the United States on the Jerusalem decision of moving the capital along with the other nations, and we'll have, kind of a complicated relationship with Israel and maintain some of those knee-jerk and policy positions that we had. But when it comes to technology, when it comes for needs of our economy, and talking on perspective in India, we're going to go with the best. We're going to do what we need to do
put their own
to position ourselves.
Self-interests first. What's interesting, though, the Senate chairman in Pakistan says that there is an emerging nexus between the U.S., Israel, and India that's a major threat to the Muslim world. What do you make of that? That's
overblown. It's a defensive posture. India and Pakistan could have gone at loggerheads multiple times. They've had standoffs in which it got a little bit frightening. I recall in the 90s, early 90s, a confrontation that was actually a little bit scary. But it's never gone so far. I mean, India has been the recipient of some absolutely horrific terrorism attacks, Mumbai, a few years ago. And you haven't seen a reaction that would show a country hell-bent on causing war or blowing things up beyond trying to contain a problem here.
They've certainly held back and kept things down. Very quickly, we heard from Nina that there was no official reaction from China yet, but what do you expect the Chinese to do?
China's finding itself in a really weird neighborhood. They have North Korea with their activities and doing things that are getting irksome. They have Russia on their neighborhood as a nuclear power, and they have India, which has been a nuclear power, but this ICBM thing has got to feel a little bit of, they have to feel the squeeze. And it's not a comfortable thing. Just as the United States, we were, very upset about the Cuba Missile Crisis. We didn't want nukes on our doorstep. And you can imagine from a Chinese perspective that you have multiple countries.
They're not going to like that, no. Jonathan, thanks for breaking this all down for us. Appreciate it. Jonathan Wachtel, former spokesperson for the U.S. mission.